Welcome back for another edition of Literary Diss Tracks. Today we have Alice Hoffman, author of Practical Magic and the Museum of Extraordinary Things, amongst many others, versus Richard Ford. Remember the dude who spit on Colson Whitehead? Now, as these literary beefs often do, this one begins with a review written by Alice Hoffman about Richard Ford's 1986 novel, The Sports Writer. What's crazy, though, is that this review isn't even that bad. Alice Hoffman writes, Mr. Ford's admirable talents, which include an extraordinary ear for dialogue and the ability to create the particulars of everyday life with stunning accuracy, are not well served in a novel given to abstract analysis. Honestly, I would take that review. Richard Ford, however, is not simply content to accept the tepid review. What he does instead is he and his wife take a copy of Alice Hoffman's Fortune's Daughter into the backyard, shoot it up with a gun, and then proceed to mail the shot-up copy to Alice Hoffman. I hope I don't need to tell you, but this is not normal behavior. When asked about this incident from an interviewer years later, Richard Ford said, "Yes, it is a true story. Shot her book. Seems so good to do. We had another copy, so I went out and shot it. I don't read my reviews anymore." Someone tell that to Colson Whitehead. I do really like the interviewer's response to Richard Ford, in which he says, "Well, that might save you on ammunition." Although Alice Hoffman hasn't really spoken to publicly on this incident, Alice Hoffman has also been at the center of some ugly beefs. Years after the ugliness with Richard Ford, Alice Hoffman published her novel, The Story Sisters, which was reviewed in the Boston Globe by Roberta Silman. The review she received was actually very similar to the one that she wrote for Richard Ford. It wasn't overly praising, there were some critiques in there, but it wasn't an ugly review. However, Hoffman took to Twitter to call the reviewer by name, to call her a moron, and if that's not bad enough in itself, Hoffman then proceeded to essentially dox Roberta Silman, giving out her email and phone number and encouraging her readers and fans to give Silman a piece of their mind. Now, it's not quite the same as shooting up the reviewer's book and mailing it to them, but if anything, I think what we can learn from this little spat is the ways in which this bad behavior from writers might be something they learn from each other.